Hi dear friends, welcome to CSS Learners Academy. Saudi Arabia, as we see today, has a long history, but basically the House of Saud was basically established in 1744. In the year 1744, House of Saud joined Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. The two forces jointly started operations and gaining as much territory as possible. But in the contemporary history, we see that Saudi Arabia was one of the 42 countries that came into being after the fall of Ottoman Empire. In the aftermath of 1945 Second World War, as the responsibility of war was put on Germany and the two famous allies of Germany known as the Austro-Hungarian Empire of Europe and the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was dismantled and 42 countries came out of it, one of them being Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, as we see it today, was established in the year 1926 when the House of Saud gained power and controlled all the territory which are still under their control. The Saudi Arabia basically means the part of Arabia or the territory of Arabia which is under the control of House of Saud. Saudi Arabia gained very important place among the Muslim countries because the two most famous holy places in Islam are located in Saudi Arabia. One of them is the Holy Kaaba in Makkah Mukarramah, and the other one is the mausoleum of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina. The relationship between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan was established in 1960. Now recently we have seen that there is a kind of deterioration in this relationship, but we will start from 1960 and we will discuss different points of convergence and divergence in this lecture before concluding the lecture by giving you whatever is going on in the recent context. There have been several controversies about the role of Saudi Arabia and Iran in the regional tensions that we see today. Although there are two important sects in Islam when we study, there is a Shia Islam and there is a Sunni Islam, and the clashes between both goes back to the year of demise of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and these relationships have also seen many ups and downs throughout the period of history. But these two countries are controversial among the Muslim countries because of one of the sect being official sect of them. Like Iran, we see that the official sect of Iran, which is followed most of the country, more than 90% of population inside Iran are the Shia Muslims, whereas Saudi Arabia is tilted towards Wahhabism. About Wahhabism, there is a very controversial book being mentioned as the Memoirs of Mr. Hamfer, who was a British spy, and he has mentioned how the British or worked on the creation of ideology of Wahhabism. In the words of Cohen, Saudi Arabia is indeed one of the few countries, China and the US being the other, that have significantly influenced Pakistan's foreign and internal policy discourses and decisions. As explained by different scholars, they say that the influence of Saudi Arabia on the policies of Pakistan remain very influential, and that is not wrong. Not because these both countries were interdependent on one another, but because of the friendly relationship, the enthusiastic relationship that we have faced. We do not have only the strategic ties with Saudi Arabia, but the cultural ties and most importantly the religious ties are older and stronger than anything else. But that is one side of the story. There are other analysts who believe that Pakistan has always maintained a relationship or a kind of balanced policy in the Islamic world, especially after Pakistan became the only nuclear power in the Islamic world. We have seen that Pakistan do not only maintain relationship with Saudi Arabia, but with other important countries, particularly Iran, Egypt and Syria. Now, especially in the current scenario, you will see that the relationship between Saudi Arabia and Turkey is weak, Saudi Arabia and Iran is weak, and Saudi Arabia and Qatar is also weak. But Pakistan is maintaining the relationship with Turkey, Iran, Malaysia, Qatar and Saudi Arabia as well. So what is required by this country, Pakistan, is to try to balance the relationship between all the important powers of Middle East. There are several things happening in Middle East right now, especially after the Arab Spring of 2012, which we will discuss in our topic of the Middle East crisis. The diplomatic relationship, as I have mentioned earlier, the diplomatic relationship between two countries were established in 1960. And since then, we have seen a rise in this relationship, especially in the most devastating wars that Pakistan fought with India in 1965 and 1971. They were not only devastating because India was a far greater country than Pakistan, but because the organization, the international organization that Pakistan has joined, CETO and CENTO, they did not cooperate with Pakistan, and the largest ally of Pakistan, United States, not even participated in the war but imposed an embargo on Pakistan. In these crucial times, the brotherly Islamic countries, especially Iran and Saudi Arabia, have helped out Pakistan a great deal. Saudi Arabia do not only help Pakistan with financial assistance, but also with the provision of oil. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia signed a military defense agreement in 1967. That agreement was basically based on the training of Saudi military officials by Pakistan Army. In the year 1969, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation was established. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation was basically an organization which was created to raise a voice of Muslim countries, like a setup that we see in the case of European Union. In the year 1971, we have again seen a rise in the relationship when Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto came to power. As I was talking earlier in the lecture on politics, that Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was a person who not only maintained relationship with Soviet Union, but he also gave the concept of a third world, the third world countries, and he helped to recognize the Islamic countries as a separate power. He adjoined different Muslim leaders like Shah Faisal of Saudi Arabia or Mahathir Mohamad of Malaysia. But then there is a sharp rise in these relationships, and it happened in the year 1979. And Americans launched Operation Cyclone. There was a kind of triangle between Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and the United States. Now we can say that this relationship turned into a kind of interdependency. In this period of war, the support to the ideological support and the financial support to the militants or to the mujahideen was directly coming from Saudi Arabia. This not only influenced the overall religious environment inside Pakistan, but was deep rooted in the education sector as well. And this education system was not only applied in the current education system, but a different system, traditional system of madrasas was established. David Commons says that the number of madrasas grew from around 900 in 1971 to over 8,000 official and 25,000 unofficial ones in 1988. You can see that just in the period of 20 years, how the number of madrasas was grown in Pakistan. This kind of an involvement and interdependency changed the dynamic of this relationship totally. Now, Saudi Arabia, as we know, was inclined towards a specific ideology, as we have discussed in like Wahhabism. But on the other hand, another famous incident happened in 1979 known as the Iranian Revolution. Now, the tilt of Iranian Revolution was towards Shia Islam, whereas the tilt of Saudi Arabia was towards Wahhabism. So that was a kind of flashpoint. That was a time in 1979 when we see that the clashes were started, the clashes were emerged. And after 1988, the collapse of Soviet Union, we have seen that Pakistan, not only Pakistan, different countries, Islamic countries of the world, but especially Pakistan has faced a kind of heightened sectarianism in the following 10 years from 1988 to 1998. Why this happened was because both countries, being the friends of Pakistan, tried to impose their ideology on this country. And as I used to say, that sectarianism is not a religious issue. Sectarianism is a political issue. We just need to study in depth and we will understand that there are not 5% of the point of divergence between different sects. There are 95% things which are common between the sects. But these 5% flaws are being heightened so much to create this political controversy that we know as sectarianism. Sectarianism grew inside Pakistan, but Pakistan was able to maintain the policy of balance between both countries. Another important issue happened in 1980. Pakistan was not only vulnerable to be targeted by the ideological warfare, but a war was erupted between Iran and Iraq in 1981. Now, after that, because of the Iranian revolution, the Western partners of Iran were not happy, as Iran very famously stated, death to America and death to Israel. So that was a kind of nightmare for United States, that a country like Iran, which was the strongest partner of United States once, is now going to stand against the United States, and whereas Iraq was a very close partner of United States. So we see that a war erupted just after 1 year of revolution. It was a devastating war. It continued for 8 years. Iraq has been accused of using the chemical weapons on Iran, and not only Iraq, but 5 other countries joined Iraq in this endeavor, and they attacked Iran collectively. Now, and at the same time, there was a need to create a kind of organization which would involve all the Arabian countries so that they can move further in this course of war like a united front. The GCC was established, Gulf Cooperation Council. Gulf Cooperation Council was established in 1981, and Pakistan was asked to help out GCC to send out troops to that, and Pakistan did send 40,000 troops to the Gulf Cooperation Council. Although it was not a good step with reference to the relationship with Iran, as it had affected these weapons and these troops were obviously going to be used against Iran, but Pakistan favored their Saudi partners at that moment. Not only this, but in the next year, 1982, we see that the organization of SaudiPakistani Armed Forces was founded, and it was headquartered in Riyadh. Currently, Pakistani troops are stationed in the region of Tabuk and in the region of Khamis Mushahid. So after the war was ended between Iran and Iraq, Iraq was engaged into another war which is known as the Gulf War of 1992. In that period, Pakistan also helped and sent troops to Saudi Arabia. In the year 1998, Pakistan conducted nuclear test and they were condemned by United States. United States also sanctioned Pakistan economically, and then in the moment of need, Saudi Arabia helped Pakistan with the financial aid and the supply of oil. This is not only because of the strong relationship between both countries. Some analysts have speculated that it was because of the Saudi interest in the Pakistan nuclear program. And we have seen in the later years that Pakistan has helped Saudi Arabia in achieving the civilian nuclear program. Now, currently, you can see that a nuclear power plant is going to be established in UAE. It is believed that Pakistan has helped the Arabian country to gain this technology. Let me tell you one thing here which I will be explaining in the Pakistan nuclear program and the nuclear politics in South Asia, that Pakistan is mentioned as a country which has been involved in the proliferation of nuclear weapons. That is a wrong concept. Pakistan was not involved in proliferation, but Pakistan was involved in exporting the nuclear technology. And nuclear technology is like any other technology, like we see other kind of developments like in information technology and other forms which can be used as a weapon or can be used as a civilian program as well. So the civilian nuclear program is not something harmful, and we should give this right to other countries to have a civilian nuclear program. That is what Iran is demanding, and that was what given to Iran in the Iran nuclear deal known as JCPOA. Now there are different controversies, and they have tried to make this word nuclear seems like something very dangerous and harmful and like a criminal activity, but it is not. Nuclear technology is like other technologies, but the use of nuclear technology up to the weapons grade It is something which is harmful, and none of the country of this world should have nuclear weapons. There are several organizations which are calling for dismantlement of the nuclear programs all around the world. But the civilian nuclear program is the right of every country. I think it should be granted to them. So among other Islamic countries, Pakistan also helped Saudi Arabia to achieve this technology and to use it for different purposes, like use in medical or to deal with the energy shortages. In the year 2004, we see that the joint military exercise held between the armies of Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, and this exercise was named as Alsamsam. Now, in the period of General Pervez Musharraf, we have seen a kind of great influence of Saudi Arabia on Pakistan, because General Pervez Musharraf, after coming to power, established an organization which is known as NAB. I have explained about all that in this lecture. After that, he initiated the cases that were filed by the two famous political parties against each other. So the cases were heard and the punishments were awarded. And then it was Saudi Arabia which came to the rescue of the leaders of PMLN. The leaders of PMLN were then, on the request of Saudi Arabia, they were granted NRO, National Reconciliation Ordinance, and they were in a self-exile in Saudi Arabia. Later on, they came back to Pakistan in the year 2007, and they involved themselves along with Pakistan People's Party in the process of election. Elections were held, and in the year 2008, we see that Pakistan People's Party came to the power. In the period of Pakistan People's Party, we have seen that relationship was not so enthusiastic between both countries because of the inclination of People's Party towards Iran. In the same period, the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline was proceeded with. That is not only an economic but a strategic project, and it was started back in 1995 in the period of Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto. Saudi Arabia was not happy about the growing relationship between Pakistan and Iran, but then in the year 2012, when Pakistan Muslim League Noon came to power, we have seen that the relationship again saw a kind of rise. After living in Saudi Arabia for 10 years, the Sharif family have maintained very close relationship with the royal family of Saudi Arabia. So in that period, nothing was done in the case of Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline. The pressure was there also from United States and Saudi Arabia, and we see that a halt in that project, which was very dire for Pakistan, as we were facing the acute energy shortages. Now, in the year 2012, we have seen that Arab Spring was there in the Arabian country. There was a position taken by Iran and another opposite position by Saudi Arabia. Pakistan emphasized that we are standing with Saudi Arabia, and whatever is the position of Saudi Arabia regarding the Syrian crisis especially, we will stand with it. It was announced during the visit of Salman bin Abdul Aziz, who visited Pakistan in February 2014. Pakistan reiterated that we fully support the Saudi position on the Syrian crisis. But at the same time, the Saudi Crown Prince visited India as well in February 2014. And there, India and Saudi Arabia an agreement for the exchange of defense-related information, military training and education, as well as cooperation in areas varying from hydrography and security to logistics. That was something which was a kind of, you can say that, backstabbing to Pakistan. When Pakistan is supporting Saudi Arabia against their rival Iran in the region, then Saudi Arabia making close relationships with India was obviously not good for the relationship between two countries. But why Saudi Arabia was doing that? Saudi Arabia was a kind of in a situation, a very difficult situation because of the Middle East crisis. They wanted to have as many partners as possible against Iran, because the JCPOA was going on, which is known as the Iran nuclear deal. The negotiations were continued, and they were favoring Iran that possibly a deal is going to happen between these countries, and after that the influence of Iran will grow in the region. So Saudi Arabia and Israel were the two countries strictly against the proceedings on Iran nuclear deal, and they both have influenced in scrapping this deal by United States. So at that time, Saudi Arabia was looking for as many partners as possible to play an important role in the Middle East crisis. But choosing India as a partner who is a close ally of Israel and United States, who is a close ally of Russia. I mean, India has always been maintaining a kind of hypocritical position in the international affairs. So choosing that kind of a partner and on the cost of deteriorating relationship with Pakistan was not good for their future relationships. And then we see the next year 2015 when Saudi Arabia starting an operation against Yemen. The war of Saudi-Yemen war was initiated in 2015. Saudi Arabia asked Pakistan to send troops to continue to that war, although Saudi Arabia partnered 10 other countries of Middle East, and they all were fighting the militia of the poorest country of Middle East known as Yemen. That is a devastating war, and I must say that you go to the Human Rights Watch and see what are the effects of that war on Yemeni people especially. So when Saudi Arabia asked Pakistan to send troops, Pakistan held a joint parliament session, and it was decided that Pakistan is not going to send the troops, but Pakistan will remain neutral as this is a case involving two brotherly Islamic countries. But what were the reasons why Pakistan did not help Saudi Arabia by sending troops at that point? There were two important factors. Number one was the growing relationship between China and Pakistan. China and Pakistan were in a close relationship. As CPEC was announced in the year 2015, CPEC was not only, as we say, that it is a game changer, it is true, because CPEC was not only an economic project but a strategic project, and unless Pakistani western borders are safe, CPEC was not going to be safe ever. Therefore, China and Pakistan both were emphasizing more and more on creating good relationship with the brotherly countries on the western border of Pakistan. Second important factor was the ongoing Arab crisis. In the Arab crisis, we see that the Islamist organization like Jamiyat Ulama-e Islam F and Jamaat-e-Islami, these are the Islamist organizations who were inclined towards Saudi Arabia, but their inclination is more towards the Muslim Brotherhood of Middle East. Now, the Saudi position in the Arab crisis was against the Muslim Brotherhood of Turkey, mainly Turkey and Egypt. When the resolution in parliament was proposed of sending troops to Saudi Arabia, these Islamist organizations even voted against that resolution. These organizations not only helped in defeating the resolution of sending troops, but they also did not involve in the protests which were going on in Pakistan. So Pakistan maintained a policy of neutrality. That was also something that hit Saudi Arabia and the Gulf countries very hard. A minister of UAE even warned Pakistan of severe consequences because of the ambiguous position on the Yemen crisis. Although our policy was very clear, we say that we are neutral in this cause and we are not going to be side with any one party or the other. And then a very unfortunate event happened on the 16th of December 2014 when a army public school Peshawar was attacked by the gunmen. This attack influenced the further security policy of Pakistan. Military and government sat together and formulated a National Action Plan. National Action Plan is a 20-point agenda. I will explain that in another lecture. So National Action Plan was formed and two important operations, Operation Zarb-e-Azb and Operation Raddul Fasad, were initiated throughout the country. Now the organization, the Islamist organization, as I have talked earlier, they were supported by Saudi Arabia, they were financed by Saudi Arabia because of their own purposes. So a crackdown on such organization having inclination towards Saudi Arabia was also a step that deteriorated the relationship further. However, before that, in the year 2014, we see that when Pakistan was facing a crisis of balance of payment and especially circular debt, Saudi Arabia granted a $1.5 billion aid to the then Pakistani government. And we have seen the same behavior of Saudi Arabia being repeated in 2018. In 2018, Pakistan was again facing an acute shortages of foreign reserves, and the disturbance in balance of payment, the current account deficit. Therefore, Saudi Arabia helped Pakistan by granting a financial assistance of $3 billion and $3 billion in the form of deferred payments for oil. Now, Saudi Arabia has always raised her voice on the Kashmir issue with Pakistan, but that situation also changed after the defense agreement was signed with India in 2014. After 2014, we have seen that Saudi Arabia was kind of an ambiguous stand, and they were saying that this issue should be resolved bilaterally and all that thing. I mean, their narrative was changed from the Pakistani side to a kind of balanced policy, and later on, we have seen when India revoked Article 370 on the 5th of August 2019, the stance of Saudi Arabia was pretty clear that they are standing with India and not with Pakistan. Why and how this has happened? We have seen that Pakistan is requesting after the 5th of August 2019, Pakistan is continuously requesting Saudi Arabia to convene a meeting of foreign ministers in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to have a joint resolution against the illegal occupation and this illegal move of India of abrogation of Article 370. But Saudi Arabia failed to do that, and after a period of 1 year and several requests to Saudi Arabia, the foreign minister of Pakistan, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, have complained to their friend and ally Saudi Arabia that you are not helping us in the case of Kashmir, but you are not the only country. There are several other countries. There is a complete bloc which is ready to stand with Pakistan on Kashmir. The bloc includes especially Turkey, Malaysia and Iran. So Pakistan pointed out towards the consent of this bloc to stand with Pakistan on the issue of Kashmir. So that was a kind of complaint which we made to Saudi Arabia, and we faced a very fierce response from Saudi Arabia when they said that the amount that we have given you in your time of crisis should be paid back. Pakistan paid back $1 billion, and then negotiations are going on to mend the fences and to try to have the relationship that we had previously or we had enjoyed in this period of 60 years. So now we will talk about the recent developments. The recent developments in the region are pointing out towards a kind of devastating escalation. We have seen that the situation is continuously changing. Saudi Arabia is not even a leader of the Arabian countries that it was earlier. Qatar, after the Qatar-Saudi rift of 2017, there are different aspects of Saudi Arabia getting weaker among the Muslim countries and stronger by having their relationship with the Western countries. The Saudi-Israel relations are not something hidden. Everyone knows that they are maintaining ties behind the screen, and now different Arabian countries are normalizing their ties with Israel one by one. Pakistan has maintained very clearly that we are standing with the Palestinian people. This is something also differentiated from the Saudi point of view, which says that we should accept Israel. Now there is a kind of two separate blocks which we can see right now. There is an eastern bloc containing Russia, China, Iran, Pakistan, Turkey, Malaysia. These 6 countries are in a separate bloc, or we can see them getting into a kind of separate arrangement. Whereas on the other hand, there are countries like United States, Europe, Israel, Saudi Arabia and the UAE. So this is now a time of deciding moment. This is a kind of moment where Pakistan needs to decide whether they should stand with this bloc or the other one. However, until this moment, because of the wisdom of Pakistani policymakers, Pakistan is maintaining a policy of neutrality and trying to find out a solution so that the Muslim countries can be on one page. We have mediated between United States and Afghanistan, we have mediated between United States and Iran, and we are trying to mediate between Saudi Arabia and Iran so that this gap can be removed and Muslim countries should stand like a united front. But after the acceptance of Israel, after the normalization of ties with Israel, this is a kind of red line for the Muslim countries. This is a kind of red line. Now Pakistan have to come up with one line strategy and a stronger foreign policy. So this was our lecture for today. If you have not subscribed to the channel, I will request you to subscribe, and if you want to be a part of our WhatsApp groups, you can contact me on this number and I will add you to the groups. These groups have maintained to answer the questions that may arise regarding any topic of CSS. Thank you very much for watching the video. Stay blessed. Allah Hafiz.